Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt that deep pull inside you, that whisper that says, there's more to life than this? There's more inside me than I'm showing the world. Maybe you've achieved certain goals. Maybe you've done what was expected, but there's still that part of you that knows you're playing smaller than you were created to play. And let's be honest, we've all been there. Settle for good enough. We shrink our vision to fit our current reality, and we call it being practical. But the truth is, practicality kills possibility. Playing small robs you of the life you were born to live. If you stay with me through this message, I promise you something. This won't just be another motivational talk you listen to, nod your head at, and then go back to life as usual. No. What I'm about to share can shift the way you see yourself, the way you think, and the way you act if you decide to absorb it and put it into play. Because here's the truth, the size of your thinking determines the size of your results. The bigger you think, the greater you live, period. You've got a choice right now. You can tune this out and go back to the life you've always known, or you can lean in, open your heart and your mind, and give yourself permission to step into something greater. This is not about hype. This is about unlocking the parts of you that you've been ignoring for too long. So here's my invitation. Don't just listen. Engage. Don't just hear the words. Let them challenge you. Let them shake you. Let them push you beyond the limits you've been carrying around. If you stay with me, I'll show you how to break free from the small cage of limitation, raise your standards to levels that scare you, take bold action that transforms your vision into reality, and surround yourself with the kind of energy that fuels greatness. This isn't about someday. This isn't about when conditions are perfect. This is about today, this moment, right here, right now. You have the chance to flip the switch, to ignite the fire, and to claim the bigger, greater life you've always known was waiting for you. Most people don't even realize that the biggest prison they'll ever live in is the one inside their own mind. Think about it. How many times have you wanted something, maybe a dream, a goal, a vision, and before you even took the first step, you killed it in your own head? You said to yourself, I'm not smart enough. I'm not ready. It's not possible. People like me don't do things like that. You didn't even give life a chance to test you because your thoughts slammed the door shut before the world could even open it. That's the cage most people are in. It's not their circumstances. It's not their environment. It's not their resources. It's the limits of their own mind. And here's the crazy part. Those limits usually didn't even come from you. They came from years of conditioning, teachers who told you what you weren't good at, from parents who were trying to protect you but ended up passing down their fears, from friends who laughed when you dreamed too big, from a society that constantly tells you to stay in your lane, play it safe, don't rock the boat. And if you listen long enough, you start to believe it. You stop questioning it. You accept those limits as reality. But what if I told you reality is flexible? What if I told you that your brain, your beliefs, story about who you are and what's possible for you, they're not fixed. They're programmable. You've been programmed up until now by fear, by culture, by other people's opinions, but you can reprogram yourself for possibility, for vision, greatness, because the only real limits are the ones you decide to keep. When you think small, life shrinks to fit that thinking. You see only the problems, only the risks, only the reasons it won't work. But when you think big, your brain shifts. It starts searching for possibilities, for strategies, for solutions. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you notice doors that were always there, opportunities that were always available, strengths in you that were always waiting. You just couldn't see them before because your thinking was too small. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people get the same idea to start a business. The first person says, well, I don't have enough money. I don't have the right connections. I'll probably fail. That person doesn't even start. The second person thinks, this could change my life. I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out. I'll learn, I'll ask, knock on doors until one opens. That person starts small, maybe struggles, maybe stumbles, but eventually builds momentum and changes everything. Same idea, same opportunity, but completely different results because one thought small and the other dared to think big. And here's what most people miss: thinking big doesn't mean you need to have all the answers. It doesn't mean you need to know every step of the journey. Thinking big simply means you refuse to let fear dictate the size of your vision. You let your vision be as big as your heart can imagine, and then you trust that you'll figure out the how as you go. How always reveals itself to the person who's bold enough to dream in the first place. But let's be real, thinking bigger requires courage, because the moment you decide to step outside of that mental box, people will notice. They'll question you. They'll doubt you. They'll remind you of every reason you might fail, not because they're bad people, but because your decision to expand threatens their decision to stay small. And if you're not careful, shrink back to fit their comfort zone instead of expanding into your own potential. You cannot afford to let that happen. You've got one life, one shot, and the last thing you want is to look back and realize you let your own thoughts, or worse, someone else's, determine how far you went. The truth is, everything extraordinary that's ever been created came from someone who refused to accept the limits of their mind. Airplanes, electricity, technology, medicine, even the chair you're sitting on, it all started with someone thinking bigger than the world around them. So, if that's true, what could your life look like if you stopped shrinking your vision to fit your fears? What would happen if you stopped saying, I can't, and started asking, how can I? What would open up for you if you decided right now to never again let your doubts dictate your destiny? Here's the bottom line. The limits you've been living with are not real. They're habits, and habits can be broken. The moment you decide to think beyond them, your life begins to expand. And when you expand your mind, you expand your world. So if you want to live greater, the very first step is to break free from the limits of your mind, because once your thinking grows, your life has no choice but to follow. Your life is always a reflection of the standards you set for yourself, not what you say you want. What you dream about when nobody's watching, what you're actually willing to demand from yourself every single day. And I want you to really hear me on this, because most people don't have a can't. Problem, won't settle for less. Problem, they accept average, they accept excuses, they accept whatever shows up instead of demanding more from themselves and from life. Think about it. Every area of your life right now, your health, relationships, your career, your finances, your happiness, it's not just where you randomly ended up. It's exactly what you've tolerated up to this point. If you're tired of how you feel physically, it's because you've set a standard that allows you to eat and move in a way that keeps you stuck. If you're unhappy in a relationship, it's because you've allowed that level of connection and communication to be good enough. If your finances are tight, it's because you've accepted a level of action, of creativity, of courage that reflects the income you currently have. Truth. Yes, but liberating truth, because the second you raise your standards, everything changes. Raising your standards means deciding once and for all that you will no longer tolerate less than you know you deserve. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is the new normal. This is the minimum I'll accept for myself. And when you do that, something powerful happens. Your brain shifts. Your body shifts. Your behavior shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You start finding a way, because now it's no longer a preference. It's a must. There's a huge difference between I should and I must. People live their whole lives in shoulds. I should work out more. I should eat better. I should spend more time with my family. I should save money. Shoulds don't change your life. Musts. When something becomes a must, you find a way. If you had to get water to survive, you wouldn't say, well, I should go find water. No, you'd crawl, you'd climb, you'd fight. You'd do whatever it takes because your standard for survival demands it. That's the power of raising your standards. Now, here's what usually happens when you raise them. You're going to scare yourself, because the new standard will feel impossible at first. If you've been earning a certain amount for years and you decide, that's it, I will never earn below this new level again, your brain will scream. But how? That's too much. If you've accepted shallow relationships and you finally say, I will only surround myself with people who love, challenge, and respect me, there will be a part of you that feels terrified of being alone. But listen, that fear is just the old version of you fighting for survival. That's the part of you that's comfortable with mediocrity. And if you let that part win, you'll stay where you are forever. If you push past that fear and stay committed to the new standard, life begins to reorganize itself around your decision. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you demand. And when your standards rise, results rise to meet them. You attract new opportunities. You step into rooms you never thought you'd be in. You treat yourself differently. You start seeing yourself as someone who deserves more. And the world reflects that back to you. Think about anyone you admire, someone who's achieved greatness in any area of life. It wasn't talent alone. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some secret advantage. At some point, they raised their standards. They refused to tolerate average. They made the uncomfortable choice to hold themselves to a higher level than the people around them. And that decision changed their destiny. The same is true for you. There's another level waiting for you right now, but you'll never touch it until you raise the standard of what you demand from yourself. Stop saying, one day I'll do it. Stop saying, get there when conditions are right. Draw the line today. Make the decision today. Stop living by your shoulds. Start living by your musts. And you'll discover a version of yourself that's been waiting to come alive all along. So if you want to live greater, you must first elevate your standards. Because the moment you raise the bar on yourself, your life will rise with it. It doesn't matter how big you think. It doesn't matter how high your standards are. If you don't follow through with consistent action, nothing changes. Ideas are cheap. Dreams are everywhere. Vision without action is nothing more than a fantasy. It's filled with people who talk about what they're going to do, what they're planning to do, what they wish they could do, but very few actually move. And that's why so many people stay stuck. Let me tell you something you already know, and your heart action is the bridge between your vision and your reality. It's the difference between living in possibility and living in results. You can sit around waiting for the perfect moment, all the lights to turn green, for everything to feel safe and certain, but that day never comes. Action is what creates clarity. Action is what builds confidence. Action is what turns your someday into today. Here's the trap most people fall into. They think they need to feel ready before they act. They think they need motivation first, then they'll take the leap. But it doesn't work like that. Motivation is not the starting point, it's the result. You act, you create momentum, and momentum fuels motivation. The longer you wait to feel ready, the more you teach your brain that hesitation is your default. But the moment you move, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain, teach your brain that progress is your pattern. Think about the first time you tried anything new. Whether it was driving, learning a skill, starting a job, you didn't feel confident at the beginning. You felt nervous, maybe even scared. What happened after a few reps, after a little practice? Confidence came. It wasn't because you thought about it more, it was because you acted. Confidence is earned through action. Now, I'm not talking about random action. I'm talking about bold, consistent action aligned with your vision. One small action taken consistently has more power than 1,000 big plans sitting in your head, because consistency compounds. You may not see results immediately, but like drops of water wearing down a rock, your daily actions shape your destiny. The person who writes one page every day ends up with a book. The person who saves a little money every week ends up with financial freedom. The person who makes one call, has one conversation, takes one bold step every single day, ends up with opportunities that others only dream about. And boldness is key here, because small, safe actions won't stretch you, they won't transform you. If your actions don't make you a little uncomfortable, they're probably not moving you closer to your true potential. Bold action means you step when you don't have guarantees. You ask when you might hear no. You try when failure is possible. And in those bold moves, discover strengths you never knew you had. The world opens doors for the bold. Opportunities reveal themselves to the ones willing to risk rejection, discomfort, and uncertainty. But let's be real, taking action consistently is hard. Life will always give you reasons to stop. You'll be tired, you'll be busy, things won't go as planned. And in those moments, you've got to remember why you started. You've got to anchor yourself to that bigger vision, to those higher standards you committed to. Because the difference between people who succeed and people who fail isn't talent, it's persistence. It's the ability to keep moving forward when it would be easier to quit. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you build a muscle. You wire your brain to associate movement with growth, and eventually it becomes who you are. You become someone who acts, someone who executes, someone who doesn't wait for permission or perfect timing. And when that becomes your identity, there's no limit to what you can create. Remember this, the world doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. You can be the smartest, talented person in the room, but if you don't act, the person with half your talent who takes massive, consistent action will surpass you every single time. So don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until fear disappears, because it won't. Move anyway. Take one step today, then another tomorrow, and another the day after. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize that what once seemed impossible became inevitable, simply because you acted boldly and consistently. If you want to live greater, you must take bold, consistent action towards your vision, because without action, your dream stays a dream. No matter how strong your vision is, no matter how high your standards are, no matter how much action you take. If you surround yourself with the wrong environment, you will always be fighting an uphill battle. Human beings are wired to adapt to the people and the energy around them. You cannot plant yourself in toxic soil and expect to grow into greatness. You cannot live in an environment of limitation and expect your mind to stay expanded. You cannot spend your days with people who are satisfied with average and expect yourself to live at extraordinary. The truth is simple. Who you spend time with is who you become. If you're around people who constantly complain, who make excuses, gossip, who shrink from challenges, you'll start to mirror that behavior, even if you don't realize it. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who challenge themselves, who think bigger, who take bold action, refuse to settle, you'll rise to that level, even if at first it feels uncomfortable, because energy is contagious. Standards are contagious. Habits are contagious. Take a moment and really look at your life. Who are you spending the most time with? Do they expand you, or do they shrink you? Do they celebrate your wins, or do they downplay them? Do they challenge you to be more, or do they encourage you to stay the same? Sometimes the hardest truth to face is that the people you love the most might not be the ones who push you to grow. And if you want to unlock your full potential, you've got to make some tough choices about who you allow to influence your thinking, emotions, and your energy. That doesn't mean you cut everyone out or stop loving people. It means you become intentional. You decide to spend the majority of your time with people who embody the future you want, not the past you're trying to escape. You intentionally seek out mentors, communities, and relationships that force you to stretch. Because here's the thing, growth is uncomfortable, but when you're around people who are growing too, that discomfort feels normal. You start to realize you're not crazy for wanting more. You're not wrong for dreaming bigger. You're not selfish for raising your standards. You're simply in an environment where possibility is the standard. When you put yourself in those rooms, magic happens. Conversations spark ideas you never would have thought of alone. Challenges from others push you to levels you didn't know you could reach. Simply being around people who are living at a higher level shows you what's possible, because once you see it in someone else, you can't deny it's available to you too. That's why environment is everything. Let's also be clear, your environment isn't just people, it's what you consume, what you listen to, what you read, what you watch, the spaces you put yourself in daily. If your inputs are negative, filled with drama and fear, Don't be surprised if your outputs are filled with doubt and hesitation. If you flood your mind with stories of what's possible, strategies for growth, voices that challenge and inspire you, you'll start to think and act differently without even forcing it. You can literally rewire your brain by curating the environment you live in every single day. I'll tell you something else. You don't have to wait until you make it to get around great people. People think when I'm successful, I'll find mentors. When I'm rich, I'll join those groups. When I have more time, find a better environment. No, that's backwards. You create success by putting yourself in those environments now, even if it stretches you, even if it scares you, even if it costs you more than feels comfortable. Because being in the right room can accelerate your growth in months in ways you couldn't achieve alone in years. So ask yourself, what environments am I committed to from this day forward? Who will I allow to pour into my mind and my spirit? Will I choose to lock arms with on this journey? And who do I need to lovingly distance myself from? Not because I don't care about them, but because I care enough about my future to protect my energy. The truth is, you can't always control where you start, but you can control where you place yourself as you grow. You can choose to step out of circles that keep you small and into environments that call you higher. And when you do, everything changes. Your vision expands, your standards stay elevated, your actions grow bolder, and your life begins to reflect the greatness that was always inside you, waiting for the right soul to grow in. So if you want to live greater, surround yourself with growth and possibility, because you will always rise or fall to the level of the environment you choose.